to John Redmann, Power of Attorney, the show that aims to empower you through knowledge of the law. I'm Attorney John Redmann.
And hello everyone, I'm Shauna Sanford. Well, it is one of the busiest and most important court systems in Orleans Parish, and chances are you've either been there or you know someone who has. Today we are taking you inside Orleans Parish Civil District Court, also known as CDC.
We are excited to be joined today by Judge Christopher Bruno of Division F at CDC. He'll be with us in a few moments to talk about the kinds of cases he sees, how the cases move through the court, and some of the challenges our judicial system faces.
But before we get to Judge Bruno, John, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him because he has a lot of information to share with us, but I want to get your take on CDC because you have a lot of experience with there. You've been there a time or two.
Well, honestly, I can speak with some authority on this topic because that is where I make my bread and butter. Frankly, I am a trial attorney, and that's where I have tried most of my cases. Probably the second most frequented place by me is Jefferson Parish, although I've been to lots of other courthouses across the country, but mostly in Louisiana. And before working as a trial attorney, I clerked for 2 years in that very same courthouse. Okay. And it's one of these places that is always busy. As long as people knew how to read, they knew how to disagree, and there have been lawsuits that followed. So today is an excellent day to learn more about what happens in that courthouse. Hopefully we'll demystify things a little bit.
That's right, because there's a lot that goes on in that courthouse. And so when it comes to civil district court, what is it and what isn't it? Judge Christopher Bruno will be with us in just a few moments to answer all of your questions. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Orleans Parish Civil District Court is in the spotlight today, and it really doesn't get much better than our guest. He wields the power and knows the system inside and out. We are thrilled to welcome Judge Christopher Bruno to Power of Attorney.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that I can say in great praise of Chris Bruno is he not only can rule as a judge, having spent time on the bench, therefore having that experience, but for 20 years, he practiced law as a trial attorney, and that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the defense attorneys who stand before him, because there are a lot of judges who can't say they've done that. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. You took time out of your busy schedule to be here with us, but let's get right to it. Why don't you define for us what is civil district court? What do you do at civil district court?
Okay, well, civil district court is a court of general jurisdiction, meaning we do all civil matters. So any type of dispute you may have can be brought to the civil district court. We're state judges. So you could have a landlord-tenant dispute, you could have an auto accident dispute, you could have even a maritime law dispute, you could have any type of injury claim, contractual claim, you name it. And so we handle from A to Z.
Yeah, never a dull day at Civil District Court, I can imagine.
No, not at all.
Yeah, how many judges are there?
We have 11 non-domestic judges, 3 domestic judges in our court at the present time.
And to be very clear, you are over Division F,
yes,
right? And you've been there since 2009?
2009. I got elected in 2008 and took my oath in 2009.
And before that, 20 years you were a partner at the family firm, you and 4 brothers at Bruno and Bruno, a firm that handles primarily personal injury, medical malpractice.
Yeah, my focus in probably my last 10 years was medical malpractice, but the firm does general personal injury.
So help us to really understand what happens in that building, because there are a lot of different court systems in that building. What is it that you're not? You're not small claims court, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We do, like I said, we have in our building, we have the city judges. There's three city judges who sit in Orleans on the East Bank, and you have a city court judge who sits in Algiers. And we have our civil district court judges. So you will come in the same building, and oftentimes it gets confusing for people when they hear section versus division. We're divisions, and the city court judges are sections. So I'll have people walk in the hallway and say, let me see your paper. That's section A, and that would be downstairs. This is division A, that would be next door.
And for everybody's reference, that building is the corner of Loyola and Poydras. Is that the
correct?
Practically across from the Superdome.
Right. That was part of the original civil justice complex, which also houses City Hall, as you know, next door. But although city government we're not part of city government, we're a state facility, a state operated court. So people get confused, although we have a city court in our building, we are separate from that. We are a constitutional court.
Yeah.
So, city court, state court, and the small claims court?
Small claims is handled, what happens is the judge from Second City comes over, and I think once a week, and handles those small claims in our building. So they only hold court, I believe, once a week, and that can be filed by anyone.
Okay. And so we're clear, you're state judges, but this is all for Orleans Parish.
For the entire parish. But we hear, obviously, we hear cases that may have originated in other parishes, but for some reason, the case found its way into my court or our parish.
Okay.
And you do have jury trials.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so explain to us how that works. When do you put a jury together, and what is that process like?
Well, we have what's called a monetary limit on jury trials. So in Louisiana, there is a $50,000 exclusive of interest and cost limit. So if I have a claim that is worth, I believe, in my best judgment, is worth less than $50,000, I would not be entitled to a jury trial. If at some point the claim somehow changes, or originally is over $50,000, then I can request a trial by jury. So it's by request. You have to actually request a trial by jury, or you lose it, and it has to be an issue triable to a jury. So you could have a claim that's under 50, and later your injuries may progress. You can argue that that entitles you to amend, and then therefore have a trial by jury.
Well, let me ask you that.
Let me just,
okay, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
So we're clear. When you say a claim that I believe is worth, you're not saying I as the judge, you mean the person, the lawyer who files the lawsuit,
the lawyer
who believes that.
Right, the lawyer who files a lawsuit makes a good faith allegation, or a pro se party can file a lawsuit.
Pro se meaning you filed it without having a lawyer do it for
Correct,
you.
and we now call those unrepresented parties as opposed to pro se.
Trying to use plain English instead of fancy Latin.
Right, exactly.
Do you have a lot of those cases where you...
Well, I sat, in civil district court, judges serve on domestic docket originally, which I did for 4 years, and then you go to the regular docket. We saw a lot of that, and we still see a lot of that in domestic. Not so much in the general civil docket.
And define domestic just for...
Domestic is are those matters that pertain to divorce, custody, and child support proceedings. And so those are different matters than I handle.
Okay. Well, I want to go back to selecting the jury, but you said something. You mentioned the monetary limit, $50,000. So if I have a claim that I know is not that high, why would I come to civil district court versus going to small claims court? Well,
civil district court it handles more of a complex matters, and so we, as I said, we are state judges, and so we are accustomed to handling matters that involve a little more time and effort, and a little more, probably more lawyers and more discovery that needs to be conducted. Discovery is what the lawyer does to find out what the other side knows, or what our documentary evidence. I want to see that document because you referenced it in your petition, which is the document that's filed to bring the action in court. Just a piece of paper with writing on it. We're, Louisiana, we're facts. All you gotta do is allege sufficient facts to bring your case in the court. You don't have to say, I want to bring my cause of action under a statute.
And that's a really good point. And sort of relating to your specific question too, Louisiana is a fact pleading state. And that's a really wonderful thing. On behalf of individuals, if in the old days, a lot more often people didn't have lawyers, but you put down on your lawsuit, your pleading, the facts. Here's how that other person did me wrong, and he took money from me, and he promised to pay me back, and he didn't pay me back, or he hit me, and he broke my jaw, and I got medical bills, and I couldn't work. The facts, if in the facts there was, you could deduce from that, you could arrive at that legal wrongs for which there was a right to be compensated or paid or whatever. Just the facts from the things stated in the pleading, if he could prove those facts, you had a case. Whereas in other courts in other states, and sometimes you would say, some people argue, I'd argue in federal court, they have a lot more technical requirements. You have to state what laws were broken, yada, yada, yada.
The federal system's a notice pleading, not fact pleading. So you got to put the other side on notice. What is your claim you're making?
Right. And so you get hung up on technicalities, whereas if you just say, no, I put the facts in here, and I didn't have to tell you what law was broken, I gave you the facts, and that puts you on notice effectively. And that's a beautiful thing about Louisiana law. So But so why sue in state court versus small claims court? Well, if I may, small claims court, I don't think you're going to ever see a lawyer there, because that small claims court is up to what, $2,000, $2,500?
I think it's $2,500.
Okay.
It's almost like a people's court.
And city court is 0 up to, I think, $25,000.
25, correct.
And so, depending on the size of your claim, you might want to avoid state court, because state court, you might not need it. You might get a lot faster trial dates, although, Chris, you've got a very fast docket. You've run a very efficient courtroom. Hats off to you for that. But small claims court, you don't get attorney fees. So in that courtroom, in that building, small claims court, you see people suing each other because you didn't pay me $200, and you can fill out. They got fill in the blank forms there. In city court, you got lawyers representing people, but you got a lot more people unrepresented. And then when you're in civil district court, you can have all of the above, but you pay a lot more money to file a lawsuit in civil district court.
Well, you know, in city court, you see a lot of evictions, because that is a process that's designed to move fast. Although my court has the same jurisdiction over evictions. You file them in city court, and they handle a lot of those eviction processes. You post a notice on the door, then you have 5 days to leave, and then you have to show rule of show cause of why you shouldn't be evicted. So it's a pretty fast process. So they do a lot of that work.
Well, John made mention of just how quickly you do try to move cases through. What is your goal there, and why is it important to you to try to get those cases in and out? It's
the same rationale that you want when you're dealing with a jury, is to make it as not as inconvenient. You want to not inconvenience those parties, the lawyers, and the jurors. So the goal is to move the case along as quickly as possible without sacrificing your rights and your access to justice. And this is one of the things about the juries, is that we want to make those juries comfortable in our court. And my colleagues on the bench, we do that. We try to get them in and out. And that's the goal with litigation, is that the longer you let a case sit, you know, the more cost is incurred, and the lawyer fees, and of course the parties stay in court's delayed, and you know, they have an injury or they have a contractual dispute, they want to move on and try to work on something else. They've got to continue to focus on this issue. Yeah. So you've got to you got to serve. You know, judges are designed there to serve. We're simply employees. We're there to serve justice and to serve the litigants and serve the parties of the Orleans Parish, and that's what we do.
So when I file a claim for civil district court, how do I know if it's going to end up in your division, or how is that decided?
It's randomly allotted by the clerk's office, who is the officer of the records. Her job, and that's Ms. Dale Atkins, does a wonderful job of housing our records and making sure those files are all kept in order and scanned. And we're actually in a process now to where we're scanning all of our records to allow access online to your pleadings. Jefferson Parish has had this for some time now. This is really going to help lawyers out to be able to print a document if they need from a court record.
Yeah,
so
okay,
we're moving
so it's just
forward.
Random.
It's random, yes.
How that does happen.
Yes, ma'am.
And so how each judge handles his or her court is really up to that judge.
It is, but we all work toward a common goal, and that's just to move these cases to allow parties to go back to their normal lives. Because, you know, being involved in any type of lawsuit is trying. It takes a lot of effort, time. You have to miss work. Being on a jury is very, very difficult.
Right.
People are always afraid to be on juries because they think, I don't want to take time from work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hold that thought, because we want to talk about that. Lots to talk about the juries. We just started talking about juries and just got off onto so many other things, but we're going to talk about that. So coming up next, you get to join the conversation when Judge Bruno takes your questions. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.